Well, welcome back to YouTube Foundry. I'm Richard, and what we're going to do is take a dive into the YouTube community guidelines. We're going to look at how these guidelines are structured, what the basic categories are, and how you find out about what you're allowed to do and not allowed to do. Now, ultimately, it's your responsibility to know what these guidelines are. So you need to go through and read through all of them, I think, to be fully informed as to what the guidelines are. But there's some patterns that I want you to see and some things I want to point out in this. And in addition, at the end of this, I'm going to show you a link that I want everyone to subscribe to that I think is a great link for anybody that's creating content for YouTube. So let's just get into it. So when we go to the support.google.com address and we click on YouTube, we're going to get this screen. And this screen shows us our 5 major categories here of rules and things about the rules that we need to follow. Your YouTube community guidelines, your YouTube policies, the reporting and enforcement issues, privacy and safety, and copyright and rights engagement or rights management. So let's first start with the YouTube community guidelines. And what you've got on this page is you've got a general view of what the guidelines are. And one of the things it says here is if you see content that you think violate these guidelines, report it. So you can see that over here to the left. So now, what are the things that need to be reported? Well, there's several categories here. The first one is spam and deceptive practices. It says the YouTube community is one that is built on trust. Content that intends to scam, mislead, spam, or defraud other users isn't allowed on YouTube. And I think that's a pretty clear statement. I don't think there's any doubt or any ambiguity there. Basically, if you're trying to do something to trick somebody into watching your video, if you're trying to do something to trick somebody thinking the video is saying something it's not saying, or that you're somebody who you're not, that is not allowed on YouTube. The next category is sensitive content. Sensitive content is the area that deals with things like sexual content and things that isn't appropriate for minors and violence. So it says we hope to protect viewers, creators, and especially minors. That's why we've got rules around keeping children safe, sex, and nudity, and self-harm. Learn what's allowed on YouTube and what to do if you see content that doesn't follow these policies. So you need to read this really carefully and make sure that you don't violate this, because this will also get you in trouble with YouTube. The next category is violent or dangerous content. Hate speech, predatory behavior, graphic violence, malicious attacks, and content that promotes harmful or dangerous behavior isn't allowed on YouTube. I sometimes think that people stretch this one a little bit. They show a lot of videos where people are doing stupid things, and it's dangerous. And I know they do a warning that says, oh, you should never try this at home, and that kind of stuff. But really, some of this stuff I just look at, I just think is not safe, that they have people doing. Some of the where people wipe out on skateboards, or people do stunts that go wrong. I don't know. But so YouTube isn't apparently overly strict on this, but they certainly try to moderate it to some extent. Now, they also do moderate. I've never seen any nudity on YouTube. Graphic violence, I haven't really seen much of that. Predatory behavior, I don't really see. But I think you do have to be careful that you don't cross over that line, so you want to read these. The next one is regulated goods. So certain goods can't be sold on YouTube. Find out what's allowed and what isn't, and we'll take a look at this. One of the things about YouTube that is interesting, for example, is firearms. So a lot of people love to do videos about firearms. They're different handguns, they're different rifles, they're different shotguns, how they handle them, how they use them, how they, all this different stuff about handguns. Well, handguns are interesting, and it's certainly something that a lot of people like to see. However, YouTube will not pay you for videos that deal with handguns. I make it a point in my videos never to show any handguns, never to show any guns whatsoever, because I don't want to cross this line. Plus, I want children to be able to view my videos, and I don't want children seeing videos see me handling firearms. So I don't ever use firearms in any of my videos. Misinformation is another area that YouTube moderates. Certain types of misleading or deceptive content with serious risk of egregious harm are not allowed on YouTube. This includes certain types of misinformation that can cause real-world harm, like promoting harmful remedies or treatments, certain types of technically manipulated content, or content interfering with democratic processes. They're really specific. They don't like people having videos, for example, where they talk about the 2020 election, whether or not it was a fraudulent election or not. They will take down videos if that's what you're talking about. If you start talking about things like COVID and COVID isn't real, or start doubting whether or not COVID is a real disease, they will take that content down. That is not content that's allowed on YouTube. And so they're going to moderate that. That's just something that they do, and we'll see that when we look at it. The final area is educational documentary, scientific and artistic content. They call it EDSA. It says, our community guidelines aim to make YouTube a safer community. Sometimes content that would otherwise violate our community guidelines may stay on YouTube when it has educational, documentary, scientific, or artistic context. In these cases, the content gets an EDSA exception. So they give themselves an out so that if they think that it falls in this EDSA category, they might let it up there. But I'm just not one who wants to trust it. I'm trying to do a channel where I can provide value, provide entertainment value for people, informational value for people, and I don't want to risk YouTube taking that down. So I try to avoid any of the guidelines, the guideline policies that they have. I don't want to violate those because I just don't want to get in trouble. I did accidentally recently get in trouble on a copyright issue, and that's an issue we'll cover in the 5th video. But I did get a little trouble, not a little trouble. They just said, hey, we realized your video has some copyright content in it, and I'll explain the context of that. And I took it down immediately because it wasn't even in a video that was intended to be published. It was just something I was just loading it up to my YouTube channel so that I could then download it onto my computer. And while it was private, they identified it having copyrighted material, which it did have. But I took it down immediately, and so everything was fine. So let's just go into these real quickly. And I want to show, first of all, there's a structure to each one of these. We'll look at this. So each one of these will have that structure. And then we'll look at some of the individual criteria that's involved here. So if I just go to spam and deceptive policies, I'm just going to, or deceptive practices, I'll click on the first one. And each one of these links will have a page like this. And so under this particular first policy or first guideline, it's got all of the 6 items that would fall under that. And first, you may have a video in some cases. You're going to have a rule here that says exactly what it is. YouTube doesn't allow spam, scams, or other deceptive practices that take advantage of the YouTube community. So it states what the guideline is. Then what it's going to do is it's going to see what these policies mean for you. And then you're going to scroll down. It's going to give some examples of that policy, and then it's going to say what happens if you violate it. Now, every single one of these hyperlinks over here is going to have this section. What happens if you violate the policy? So let's take a look at this really, really closely because I think this is important. It says, if your content violates this policy, we may suspend your monetization or terminate your channel or account. Learn more about about monetization policies and channel or account terminations, and they've got links to that, and we'll look at those later in the course. For some violations, we may remove the content and issue a warning or a strike against your channel. If this happens, we'll send you an email to let you know. So you need to be checking your email regularly to make sure that you're not getting strikes. So you need to check that email that's associated with your account on a regular basis. Okay. Now, you can take an optional, it says you can take an optional policy training to allow the warning to expire after 90 days. So you take the training, 90 days after the end of the training, after you successfully completed the training, then that warning will disappear. If your content violates the same policy within a 90-day window, that warning may not expire, and your channel may be given a strike. So there's a warning, and then there's a strike. A strike is a higher level of punishment than a warning is, okay? A warning is just a warning. Nothing's happening to your channel, but if you violate it again within 90 days, you get that strike, okay? If you violate a different policy, it says if you violate a different policy after completing the training, you will get another warning. We may prevent repeat offenders from taking policy trainings in the future. So if you get 3 strikes within 90 days, this is important. If you get 3 strikes within 90 days, your channel may be terminated. Learn more about our strike system. So you need to really go learn about this, and I've got a video about their strike system and what you do if you get a strike or a warning. And we'll talk a lot about that. That's really important to know what to do because it could happen to anybody. I watched a video on a fella. He was camping and he was cooking over a campfire, and he was cooking a steak over a campfire. And somebody complained that he was showing the raw meat too much in his video. I don't know, kind of weird, right? He actually got a warning from YouTube about that because there was a complaint. So he got this warning about you from YouTube. Somebody complained you were showing raw meat too much. I don't know which of the policies that appeared to violate, but he got a warning and he had to address it. So it's just, you just never know what you're going to get a warning about. If people complain about something in your video, you might get a warning about it. So this is the structure for all of these. I'm not going to go through each of these items over here, the spam deceptive practices and scam policy, the impersonation policy, external links policy, fake engagement policy, additional policies, and playlist policy. I want you to go through those and read those. I think it's really important that you educate yourself on what's allowed and not allowed on YouTube. However, I do want to go back and look at a couple of other items. Let's go look at violent or dangerous content and see what they say here. Okay, so if you look down here, it says weapons content, instructions to kill or harm, instructions that show or tell viewers how to perform activities that are meant to kill or severely harm others is not allowed. Explosive, giving instructions how to make explosive devices or compounds meant to injure or kill others is not allowed. Of course it's not allowed. That would be awful, right? Firearms says, for more information, review our firearms policy. So let's go look at that firearms policy for just a moment. So the firearms policy says, content intended to sell firearms, instruct viewers on how to make firearms, ammunition, and certain accessories, or instruct viewers how to install those accessories is not allowed on YouTube. YouTube shouldn't be used as a platform to sell firearms or accessories noted below. This is their channel. They are allowed to say this. This is not a restriction of free speech. This is something that they're allowed to moderate on their channel. Okay. Sometimes content doesn't violate our policies, but it may be inappropriate. It may not be appropriate for viewers under 18. YouTube age restrictions content. YouTube age restricts content showing the use of certain firearms and accessories, also noted below. So it says if you're posting content down here, it talks all about things you're allowed to do. Instructions, of course, that was said above. It's going to have, you need to read this. If you're going to do anything that has firearms in your video, you need to do this. I just make a point not to have any firearms at all in my videos. I just think that that's just not something I want to do. Now, on the other hand, you do have companies like the Glock store. Lenny McGill at the Glock store has a lot of videos on the firearms that they send. Now, he's not selling firearms. He is talking about firearms that are there and talking about the features of them, talking about the different sights that might be coming out, the different red dot sights that are available, the different streamlights that might be available, the different modifications that are there. But he's not actually selling the videos, the guns in his videos, but he's probably not getting paid for those videos either. So anyway, that's just something to understand. YouTube does restrict that kind of content, and it's certainly their right to do so. So let's go back to the other item here. So you've got all those. The last thing I want to show you in this video is I want to show you down here. It says get creator tips for YouTube policies and guidelines. And I've got this link in the description section of this video. But if you click here, it's going to take you to this page here. And what it wants you to do is subscribe to the YouTube Creators channel. And let me show you the YouTube Creators channel. It's right here. It's www.youtube.com/YouTube Creators. It's a really great channel to go to that has a lot of content that goes even deeper into this stuff than I'm going into here. But it's a lot of technical content about what they have on YouTube. They've got something called a Rules of the Road playlist. Sometimes those playlists are hard to find. So if you go here to playlist, it's going to list all the playlists that they have. And one of them is somewhere in here is one called Rules of the Road. But if you can find it, great. And it's going to have a lot of these, a lot more detailed explanation of a lot of this community guideline and policy information. So hopefully this was helpful. Let's move on to the next item in the items list, which is the YouTube policies.